1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Sheree,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You gotta pause.
Okay. Okay.
That's why these young people be doing these TikToks and old people don't.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. 7, 8. 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
This
8.
is your fault.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I'm even further confused.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
5,
Five.
6, 7, 8, 8.
8 is my favorite number.
That was the amount of the money in my bank account before I started this journey with this one, and now it's down to 8. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for Behind Closed Doors coming up next. I can't with her. In 3, 2, 1. Well, we'd like to welcome you guys back to another edition of Behind Closed Doors with the Brookses. Yeah, I'm pushing buttons. I just want to say, obviously, we are here with a guest, and I'm excited to have and I often refer to you as, so you guys who know us, I have 7 sisters. Candace is the oldest of all of them, but I'm the oldest. So she is my oldest baby sister, because they all are my baby sisters. Welcome to the show, Can.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So today is going to be an exciting day. We're going to be talking about some things, and Cherie, I want you to set this up in the way of the title of today's show. Candace, if you guys have been paying attention to any of the things that we've been doing on IG, on any of the different things, you'll notice that my sister's been on a journey, and she is here with us in Panama. This is actually her 3rd visit, but it's for a very, very, very different reason.
So today's episode is a very special episode, and the title is A Heartfelt Journey in Panama, Love, Loss, and Legacy. As Glenn shared, this is a very special episode. It's very dear to all of our hearts, but particularly to Can. And we are going to share some really heartfelt things today. This is going to be one of those special episodes that will always remain special to us, and we hope it'll be special to you as well.
Get your Kleenex, because we may have emotional moments, but it's on purpose and it's by design. Candace actually gave us the green light to have this conversation. I didn't ask her, but she was in a special place where she wanted to share at least a little bit of a glimpse. For those of you guys who are watching, you may know her personally. This will matter a lot to you. For those that don't know her personally, what will really matter is the sentiment of it, because we're convinced that she's not the only one here experiencing grief. So let me set this up really quickly. My sister is actually the second person who's come to Panama specifically to hang out with Cherie and I during a very, very difficult and grieving process, a part of their life. My brother-in-law went home to be with the Lord a couple of weeks ago at the time of this recording. And we just celebrated the life and legacy of Norman Wayne Smith. He is an amazing man. He's still here in spirit. But one of the things that I want to do, and we're going to kind of delve into this, when Cherie and I made the leap to come and live in Panama and live abroad, one of the things we never considered was grief. We never considered what it would look like when family members lose, or when we lose family and things like that, and having to travel back and forth to the U.S. and the whole 9 yards. And this has been something that we've had to deal with. So if you're an expat trying to navigate through this, we'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think, how you handle it, and things like that. But Cherie, this isn't my sister's first time here. Yes. So the first time she came, it was when we did our 25th wedding vow renewal. She actually surprised me. Her and my mom both came through, and I was like, yo, I didn't know that y'all was coming through. What is this all about? Like, are you kidding me? They surprised me. And then her and her husband, Norman, came down for spring break. They spent a week last week in March here, and it was the last trip that they took internationally. They travel all the time together. This is a thing for them, for both of them to come here, share in the first time experience together in Panama. We thought it was really, really, really appropriate to invite her to come and spend as much time as she wants to be able to begin this journey of healing. So, real quick, Cherie, if you can jump in, and then Candace, we'll bring you in and kind of speak to some specific things, helping people to sort of navigate through their unimaginable pain in many cases. Babe, come on.
Yeah, and so for those of you that have been following us, you guys have heard me talk about my reasons for us originally moving here to Panama, and part of that was healing. For me, it wasn't healing from a loss, it was gaining perspective, finding my place of peace. And that's one thing that I've really found here in Panama, that it is a place of peace. It just puts you in the mindset to be restored, to be refreshed from the slower pace of life, from the lush greenery, the water, all of the things that a lot of people look for when they're looking for a place of respite are here in Panama. And so it's been an honor to have my sister here as she's going through her process. And she could have gone anywhere, but she chose to come spend it not only just with us, because we special, but also she chose to come to Panama.
So, Ken, I want you to really bring people into life of the amazing man that you were together with for so very long.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Norm and
Right.
what don't we know?
That's a good question. My baby, Norm, we were together for 31 years. That's a long time. And he was so amazing because he was just a good man. And when I say that, he cared about people. Norman served people from day one, all his life, and he was not judgmental. Norm would just, we would joke because I was always the one picking something, seeing something, and he would be like, "Honey, be nice." That's where "be nice" probably came from. And yeah, he just was a good person. Wherever he could help, he did. I remember one time we were in a parking lot. We were at the phone store, and he picked up a wallet. He saw the wallet, so he backed up, picked up the wallet. It had money and the credit cards in it. And sure enough, the guy comes, picks the wallet up. He looked and he said, "Thank you." It was, he couldn't believe how, but Norman would do things like that all the time. Whenever the grass needed to be mowed at the neighbor's house, he would do it. He just was a good person. And I got to experience that for 31 years. So when we went through this transition, when it happened, God did prepare me. So that brings me to when I realized Norman and I was at this time in our life, I knew I had to be prepared. Now I'm experiencing a different level of balance. I'm a balanced person, very balanced. I compartmentalize. I put everything in their little basket where they belong, and I can deal with it versus everything coming down on me. Right now in this journey, I'm just learning how to navigate that balance. That scale's a little off now. So
Right.
my balance is a new normal. It's different. It's like, oh, okay, I'm dealing with this. And when we talk about grief, there's waves, there's moments. I like to look at them as moments. That's how I navigate it best for me, how my mind can wrap itself around my grief. So, for instance, when I need to have, when the tears come or I have a moment, it's just for me, I only need it to be a moment. Now, that moment might last a minute, or that moment might last, 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe 30 seconds. But for me, I don't want to stay there. That's my process. And that frees me when you talk about being liberated. It frees me into being in the headspace where I need to be in because guess what? Life does go on. And when people would say that at first, I thought that was so cruel. Like, how could they say life goes? Because it does. The sun still rises in the east and sets in the west. It's just going to happen.
Right.
So I wanted to be prepared. That's also a big component of who I am. I like to be prepared. And having said that, it's a no-brainer that I'm here with my brother and my sister. God set this up. He did it, and it's amazing. Like Glenn said, we had that conversation when I called him in the hospital, and I said, I need you. And he called me right back. And Norman was transitioning. He was literally transitioning. And so I know he heard that conversation. So he was like, okay, let me just get out the way. Also, Norman, speaking of Norman, he's so good and so generous. He's the epitome of letting you go to do your thing. That was our whole relationship. Miss Kim, you can do that. Because I was always thinking, can I do it, babe? Miss Kim, you got this. Go do it. And he was always, giving me the green light. You got it, babe. We joked about the week he transitioned. We were supposed to be in Greece and Italy with our best friends that week. And he told me he was laughing before he transitioned. He said, go on a trip with them. And I'm thinking, really? Unless I'm putting you on my back and dragging you like some luggage. Yeah, I'm not going, babe. And you know that. Don't be a silly goose. But yeah, he propelled me always to go. And so now that I'm here, it just allows me that peace of mind without worrying about, not even worrying, that's the wrong word, without just having to deal with, or even being in my own space, which is amazing back at home. I love my space. It's so peaceful and tranquil, but this is a different situation, a different setting. And I do have the heat, the warmth, the vitamin D that I need so badly, because they don't have winter here. And that.
Listen, Cherie, I know you want to jump in here. For those of you guys just tuning in, welcome to Behind Closed Doors with the Brookses. Very different show today, and we wanted to introduce, Cherie and I talk a lot about living liberated, what that actually looks like, and my sister Candace is experiencing what living liberated looks like, and she's beginning the journey of her healing process. Life after the loss of an incredible loved one. Babe, you got something?
Yeah, Kim, one thing you mentioned earlier, you talked about how you felt like God had prepared you. Now, we can never necessarily be prepared for a loss.
Right.
But I think that there are things or mindsets that we can embrace throughout life that will prepare us for whatever comes, whatever happens. And I know one thing, even knowing Norm, there were things he did to prepare you for this time, even before you guys even knew he was sick. He was preparing you to, like you said, to launch. He was preparing you to become more independent.
Yes.
Because you very much were a kept woman, are still a kept woman.
Yes.
You definitely embraced the soft life. But he also prepared you. Because Mr. Norm was a little different.
He's definitely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just say this: from man to man, Norman was the OG.
Yeah.
Norman was, when it came to taking care of business, handling business, whether it's your finances, your business of your household, the business of caring for the people he loved the most, especially his wife, that whole stand on business. The brother stood on business, and I mean, he set the bar. I remember sharing at the homegoing. It's like, nah, if you want to know what that looks like, you just look at his life. I took so many notes. Quite frankly, it's like, nah, that's how you, be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to get angry. That was Norm. But he prepared you, and we talked a little bit. Can you share a little bit about what that might look like?
Oh, yeah. Norman prepared me in finances. First of all, I was a single mother when we met. And so I was used to being head of household, running my business, doing things, handling my business rather, because I didn't have my own personal business at that time. But he encouraged me to make sure things were right. But he also had things in place. Like, he gave me the authority from the very beginning to be his soulmate, to be his right arm. And when I say that, I would be in a place where I was paying things and taking care of business, taking care of us. And I didn't have to work, for years. I didn't have to work. And so that was the beginning of the soft life. The soft life. But I took care of him, good care of him, and took care of our home. And so fast forward, when we had a home built, it was a very much so soft life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he would come home days and say, drive up in the driveway and one of these days, I had just come from the pool, and I was watering our little plant,
Mm-hmm.
one little plant that I had outside. I was watering, and he drove up in the driveway, and he looked. He said, "Miss King, you got the life." I said, "Thanks, babe. It's because of you. I'm not working. He done worked hard all
Right,
day. He
right.
looking at me like, oh, and so I said, babe, what you need? I
Mm.
was always quick to take care of my man because I was like, we don't want this soft life
Right.
to get hard at any
Right,
point, at
right.
any time.
What you need?
Right. What you
What
need?
you
What
need
can
me
I
to
do for
do?
you?
What can I do for
Yes.
you?
So it was pretty amazing seeing how I even grew more. I thought
Mm-hmm.
I was grown and could handle it all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing seeing myself grow through finances. But
Mm-hmm.
that was a part of my prayer life. So
Mm-hmm.
my expectation was to grow,
Right.
was to get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the legacy even about our whole relationship.
And it's funny that because today in today's culture, there's this there's a different movement, particularly amongst women. This whole independence thing, and I think that there's been the stigma when it comes to what we call the soft life, to that if you're a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mother, that makes you less than, and that's not the case. And I think that it depends on the man, it depends on his mindset, but if you're truly partners, that can be advantageous for both partners, and not just me receiving everything that I want, but even with Glenn and I have grown tremendously as a person. I had the freedom to go back to school to get my degree. You were able to start your own business,
Yes.
and do those things all while having the support
Yes.
of your husband and that covering.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that oftentimes people lose sight of, that your spouse, your husband is supposed to be your covering. And when he is operating in that, it gives you freedoms so that you can live liberated
Yes.
in the relationship, but then it also prepares you for life going forward.
Beyond, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that, Cherie, because I think that a lot of times, and Candace, I watched this play out in real life with you guys growing up. Obviously, you and I have been day one since the beginning.
Day one.
The very beginning. Candace and I are 11 months and 28 days apart. And I remember as a kid, your personality and temperament was such that you were always the kind of person that wanted to be led. And I noticed that very early on as kids, so much so that, like, Candace was my rider. You understand me? If I said, "Hey, this is what we doing," she was like, "Hey, we're my." Hey, listen, that one down the street talking trash. Wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute, because that's my brother. Like, so don't get this twisted in the sense of because you enjoyed being led. I think it was because you were always an extraordinary leader.
Yes.
And I think real leaders, love to be led.
Yes.
And they don't tolerate when they are with people who won't lead, because now it makes them have to work harder than they be. When I watched you start your business, I will never forget how Norman championed that cause.
Yes.
Because it caused him to come out of his comfort zone in a lot of ways because of some of your desires. But he laid the groundwork for you to thrive in a way that now, all these years later, you've got a legacy that's been built because of a brother who decided, you know what, I'm gonna invest in this woman. She's my right arm. She's my true partner. But you took that thing to another level. Can you talk to people a little bit about sort of what you learned in leadership wise, but now how that plays out and how your business is his legacy in a lot of ways. Like the kids, the difference that you're making, because even the difference he made in adults, like that's a whole thing. Can you give people just a little bit of insight on that? Because I don't know that they understand.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's such a great point. Norm would always encourage me, Can, why don't you do your own business? And you know, God always has a Ways and Means Committee to get us to do exactly what He intended for us to do all along. And so I was like, nah, babe, I'm good. The house is sharp. It's, all the luxury things that I wanted. I don't have time for, that part. And so then the Ways and Means Committee came. And I said, babe, I'll never forget. We were on vacation. We went on a 8-day cruise, and then we went another week at a resort because mom had the resort. And so we did that, and we were in the pool, and I looked at him and I said, babe, I'm ready. Remember when you asked me? I said, babe, no, literally, I'm ready to make the phone call right now while staying in the pool. I'm done with working, for people. I want to open up my own business. He said, okay. I said, so what's next? Literally. And he said, okay, Miss Cam, when we get home, we're going to do ABC, and we started that journey. He was the catalyst in that. I'm so glad you brought that point up. And he allowed it to be, because first he knew he would handle the financial end of it. But I was so good at this thing. I said, babe, I got this. I got this. And he said, right on, Miss Can. He would allow, me to do, like I would run things past him. And I wanted it so bad. I remember when I went back to school to take the classes that I need.
So, Can, it just dawned on me, you got to go back for a second and bring people up. Like, what kind of business do you have? What do you do?
Yes.
Because I know people are saying, like, what does she do? Like, oh my God, he financed the whole, oh my Jesus. Is there 5 of him? Does he have brothers? Like, what's really going on?
So I'm a preschool and kindergarten readiness program. That's what we do. That's what I run. And it was always in my heart. That was a miracle itself, setting that up. Like I would work full time and we literally set it up, the whole thing up. The last night I worked around the clock. I was up 24 hours because they had to come in, look at the place, approve it, all of that, do the inspection. So it was really rough, but he encouraged me to hang in there and to do it. Even so much so, I remember when it was my last day and I would practically almost beg him, babe, why do I have to finish these last 2 weeks? Because remember, I'm kept. I was like, I don't have to do this.
Right.
I've done the legwork.
Right.
I can just come home.
Right.
And he said, as special as he was, Miss Can, you can do it. And I was thinking, I really want to cuss so bad. Not cuss him out, but I just want to cuss. And I said, what is he saying? And why is he saying it? But he knew what it was going to take for me to hang in there when I really wanted to give up in a whole nother situation.
Yes.
No, you got this and you're going to stay the course. And I did. And I had that memory to think, like when I think it can't get no harder than this, girl, you got that, hang in there.
Yeah.
And so, and I did. But I said all that to say Norman believed in me. He believed in so much so he would support everything. So every year we would have a give back. I'm big on giving and giving back. So Christmas time was a big deal, always have been. So he said, why are we giving gifts to kids that are no longer here? I said, they're the alumni.
The alumni.
Well, why am I spending my money for them kids?
For the alumni.
Right, for the alumni. They not here. It was little things like that.
Right.
We would laugh at, but I would still be getting,
right.
But he supported all of that. And now that business is so big, it gave back to literally. I gave back to Norm. We were able to do some big things.
You know what? It's funny, and babe, I'm sure you want to chime in on this. One of the things that, I, as relationship coaches, Cherie and I get a chance to work with couples all the time. Norman was a therapist, and particularly his focus was, drug counseling and things like that. And it was such a big part of his life in terms of beating addiction and the whole bit. He demonstrated what it looked like to duplicate.
Yes.
Like, so when I look at what he did with you in terms of, because I remember we were living in Atlanta maybe at the time, It was so long ago. Like we weren't in the middle of the process.
Right.
But I remember when we came up to the school
Right.
for the first
Yeah, I
time.
wanted to talk
And
about
okay, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, "Oh my God, my sister is a full-fledged business
Teacher.
owner, teacher, running things, and she's got a laundry list of a waiting list for people to get into her program, and she's got the receipts of these kids going and crushing it at the next level." It was crazy, but Norman was a specialist when it came to getting people to believe in themselves. And he did it without a bunch of talking. He did it without a
Right.
bunch of pushing. He just would be there to support and step out the way long enough for you to feel like you're gonna hit the ground. And then literally before you know it, you're flying. Come on, babe, you got something?
Yeah, and I wanted to go back and talk about the first time we experienced your business. We had come back and we actually had our oldest granddaughter with us, and we came to come up to visit you. And I'm like, this is like a school, because I'm thinking I'm thinking she just doing a little babysitting thing on the side. I know. I'd forgive me. I did not know. But it was a whole school. I mean, they were toddlers, but they were learning. And I'm like, I wish she could go here. She lived too far from you, but I was like, she need to go here. But you really created something special out of your heart, out of your passion. And having the support of Norman helped you to be able to do that, because this was not some little rinky-dink thing. I mean, Ken had all the things, all the tools needed to be able to teach the children.
Yes.
You were always, providing them things. You did the most. And you were able to, in the legacy, like, we were just talking recently about how you're thinking about doing the whole, like, a reunion
Yes.
of all of your kids,
Yes.
having them come up. But you
Yes.
still today
Yes.
are in touch with kids that went to your program when you started. How many years ago?
Yeah, I stopped counting over 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
they grown. They like young adults
Yeah,
now.
well, I have. They showed up. This was the thing that got me. They showed up at the home going, and I didn't realize it until we were in the service, and I just happened. My eyes fell on one, and I said, "Oh my God." That's when I lost it. Everybody was like, "You're so strong," and I'm like, I had the whole ugly cry. I couldn't believe it. So that alone
Yes.
just speaks.
Yes.
It speaks for. One of them said when we relocated, they said, "Miss Can, first of all, we're not ever having any kids unless they can come to your preschool." I was like, "You're being a silly goose. I live an hour away now." I know.
Here's what's funny. The crazy thing is we're talking about legacy. And when we talk about legacy, a lot of people hear past tense. A lot of people hear what you did. They hear the word legacy and they think history. This is what living legacy looks like. I believe that Norman's legacy is very much alive.
Yes.
And it is not ever going to be a historical thing, but a current thing that kind of shows the history of what it looks like to complete a thing. He finished his race. And when I say he finished it strong. And when I think about his kids and I think about,
I'm glad you went there.
your
I
kids,
had to-
y'all, when
yeah.
it comes to blending
Yeah.
family, and I'm going to just throw this out there. Cherie and I, years ago, when we started blending our family, the only public people that talked about that were celebrities and people of status and things like that, and you would see it, and most of the population would think that was weird. We started building a blended family 25 years ago when we got married, but the crazy thing was we were surrounded by people
Doing it.
that was doing that and literally killing it. The only thing we did different was wrote a book about it.
Right.
But Candace, you guys were and still are a model of what blending family. So as we get ready to wrap this up, can you speak to that a little bit and the importance of real love, showing up and really supporting and getting folks off the bench and in the game and helping them to be able to level up? Come on, talk to us a little bit.
Yeah, Norm, it was great family man, a great husband, a great father. When I met him, he was talking about his kids and how he would do football with practice with or basketball practice, and he had three, and I couldn't believe like how involved he was. I just couldn't believe, he had his oldest with him. She was still in high school. And she was living there with daddy, and the two boys lived with mom. And so I remember meeting everybody for the first time. That was so special. Um, Everything that Norman did included the family. And the beauty of it, he took my three as if they were his own. They would all three call him Mr. Norman, but years and years later, he was dad to them in a real way, because their father went to heaven, passed away. They were 14 was my oldest. 9 and 11 was the 9 was the youngest one, and 11 was the, so that was a critical age. And we had been dating, before then. He loved family so much. He said, Miss Can, you got 3 of them jokers. Now I got to go back to school. And he did. He went back and he got his master's. And it wasn't the regular, it was the accelerated program where you had to stay at an 80% average. All of that going on with me and my jokers and his own, they jumping on the bed. He's on the phone with me. They jumping on the bed to embrace it. He's like, get on. He's yelling at, they're laughing. He's laughing. It was a lot of fun. There were times when it was trying times because we were like, what the devil is going on here? But we knew, what was before us.
Yes.
And we kept focused on the kids. And he was so unselfish. Even the little boy across the street, he said, mind you, my name at the time was Jones, and his name because of my marriage before, and the children's was Jones, and Norman was Smith. Well, mine was Jones Smith because I always wanted them to identify, anything school related was Jones. And so he comes out in the morning to take them to school, to drive them to school, and he goes, the little boy across the street goes, "How you doing, Mr. Jones?" He said, "How you doing, Danny?" I said, "Babe, why'd you answer to Jones?" He was like, "Oh, okay, what does it matter anyway?" But it was things like that. He was never threatened his manhood.
Right.
That one was a real man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I keep saying that if you're looking for a standard of what manhood looks like, fatherhood looks like, husbandhood looks like, friendhood, if that's a word, look like, if you want, and I'm speaking glowing in these terms because Norman would never say these things of himself.
No.
If you ever met him, you would never know he was that caliber of a person in terms of how he showed it to strangers. You'd have to know him and walk with him and live and experience life with him because he wasn't showy on no level, and he wasn't doing. So that's why I want to just tell you how much I appreciate you for coming to us and saying, I want to share my story. I'd like to share. And this is an important part. Before we close, I want to certainly give you a time to share some things, and Candace, to close it out. Like, when we think about Norman and his legacy, like, what do we want people to really remember, resonate with? And even though they may not know this guy, like, there's some things I promise you that he did that can help you to connect. Sheree, if you want to pick up real quick.
I know for me, there's a couple things. First, he was very slow to speak, but when he spoke, it was powerful. He only spoke when he needed to speak. And then I think the thing for me that I really, really admired about him was just watching him care for you and care for you. I admired that. He was such a Mac.
I love it.
Yeah, he macked you from day one. And I really, and I think that we miss that a lot of times in relationships. And I think that, for a man to be as strong a man, he was a man's man, but he cared for you.
And I also I'd like to add to that, Cherie. Norman was so giving. He was such a man. He was comfortable in his own skin, famous for propelling us and anyone to do their thing, whether it was his clients, his children. He always showed up for those kids. He supported them And whether it was paying for the wedding or
Right.
whether it was paying for the cars,
Right.
the schools,
Mm-hmm.
all of the things. He helped so many people, even beyond, in our marriage, that you typically wouldn't, think, oh, you would allow that.
Right.
He had some friends that he helped,
Mm-hmm.
and that shows respect to him and who he is, and our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
so as he wasn't threatened and he was a
Mm-hmm.
good man, neither was I, because I
Mm-hmm.
knew,
Yeah.
I'm Miss Can. There's only
Mm-hmm.
one Miss Can. He was the best, the very best friend. I could tell Norm anything, the very best lover. We had a great, intimate relationship. And when I say intimate, we shared a lot,
Yeah.
and we cared for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were a fly on the wall, you would be like, that is not Mr. Norman, because he's so laid back. He was a great, great father, friend. And when you've experienced me or his children, you've experienced
This
Mr.
time.
Norm.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's about it. That's all we got. We went a little long today, and I think our hope was that you got a real life picture of what we mean when we say, come taste and see what living liberated looks like. Candace, you are tasting and you're seeing in a new reality based on the former one you had that kind of prepared you for this, and you're growing. When y'all see her out in these Panama streets, just know that she is absolutely leaning into the next level. As Norman cheered her on, like
Yes.
if you know him, he's the one that says, "Listen, let me come in. Let me have a conversation with you.
Go live life.
Go
Yeah.
live your life." She asked that. I will, and I'm gonna represent my man.
Real bad.
Real bad.
Say, talking about real bad.
Big purr.
Big
Lord
purse.
Jesus. Anyway, we're gonna leave. See, you can take the joke out in Baltimore, but you can't take Baltimore.
At all.
At all. Listen,
At all.
listen. At the end of the day, here's what I know to be true: you cannot get to any place of significance by yourself.
By yourself.
And the reason is
Because we all
need
some
some help.
help.
because we can't even get this choir together.
Help.
Yo,
Because I can't sing.
Help me.
yo,
Help me.
you can
Help me.
at all. Y'all be good. We'll see you back on the next edition of Behind Closed Doors. At the End, a poem for Norman Smith. Sunrise, September 9th, 1946. Sunset, August 5th, 2024. In bed there laid this lovely child, while heaven sang and Father smiled. In sweet refrain the angels prayed, and lined the aisle where he'd elope, reminding him why he was made. They sang to him the blessed hope. His soul disrobed, his heart embraced, and his eyes thanked love face to face. Miss Can was like a gospel hymn. She ministered when his fears arose. She laid herself on top of him, as did Elisha years ago. She gave her love, her breath, her song, and made herself into his home. Flesh of his flesh, bone of his bone, that he might never be alone. They danced together at the end. She held him so he would not fall. She asked him, "What more can I do?" He said, "Nothing. You've done it all." When time was full, she let him go, released the irreplaceable in gratitude, ushered his ghost unto the one who loves him most. Caleb Griffin.
Everything I need.
goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Hey! 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. Oh yes you have. And all my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, oh I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give.
Miss Can was like a gospel hymn. She ministered when his fears arose. She laid herself on top of him, as did Elisha years ago. She gave her love, her breath, her song, and made herself into his home, flesh of his flesh, bone of his bone, that he might never be alone. They danced together at the end. She held him so he would not fall. She asked him, "What more can I do?" He said, "Nothing. You've done it all." When time was full, she let him go, released the irreplaceable in gratitude, ushered his ghost unto the one who loves him most.